I was looking at this old sci-fi magazine cover
Mm.
from the 50s,
Oh, yeah.
and it was one of those classic hand-painted illustrations, a gleaming silver robot butler, rivets and all pouring a martini. And it just struck me, for the longest time, whenever we talked about artificial intelligence, that's the picture we had in our heads.
Right. The metal skeleton.
Exactly. We were waiting for the machine to stand up, look us in the eye, and become, I don't know, a separate species.
It's what Asimov called the Frankenstein complex, right? This deep-seated idea that the creation has to, stand apart from the creator. It walks away, becomes its own thing.
Yeah. And we've been braced for that separation. But today, for this deep dive, we're looking at a source that argues we've been looking in completely the wrong direction.
Yeah.
We aren't getting the robot butler. We're getting something, well, much stranger and much more intimate.
We are. We're digging into an essay by Lev Nemotin from his channel, Uncompressed Thinking.
And the title is AI, From Self-Training to Some Human Intelligence.
And the context is really important here. He dates it February 24, 2026. So he's writing from a perspective just a little bit ahead of us looking back.
It's also a follow-up, right, to an earlier piece he did.
Yeah, he wrote this imagined review of Asimov's I, Robot, but as if he were writing it in 1951. So he's constantly bridging these different eras of thought.
And his core idea here is a total mind bender. He's saying AI isn't evolving into a separate superintelligence at all.
No, and this is the pivot. He says it's evolving into aggregated human intelligence.
Which changes everything. So just to set the stage, we're not talking about chips or policy today. This is a thought experiment. It's about the architecture, the shape of the thing we're all building.
It is, and to get it, you have to start with Asimov. In I, Robot, the robots were clean and bounded.
Bounded, that's a great word for it.
It's perfect. They were finished products, polished steel, governed by the three laws. You always knew where the human ended and the machine began.
And that was reassuring. It was artificial. It was over there, an object you could point at.
But Nemotin's point is that the robot, well, it never actually showed up. Not like that.
Right, no legions of metal men.
Instead, the robot dissolved.
Dissolved.
It melted into the walls, into networks, data centers, the invisible architecture of everything. The physical shell just receded, and the intelligence became this pervasive thing.
Yeah, and that leads to this really interesting feeling he talks about.
Mm.
Because even though we know it's just code, using these systems doesn't feel like using a calculator.
Not at all. A calculator is clean, static. This, Nemotin says, it feels porous.
Porous, like a sponge.
That is the central metaphor of the whole piece. He says to imagine AI not as a machine, but as a vast distributed sponge stretched across silicon and light.
Wow, that's a beautiful image.
Yeah.
Stretched across silicon and light.
It's poetic, but it's also functional. Think about how you interact with it. You argue with it. You refine its answer.
I do that constantly. I treat it like a very patient intern. Now that's too formal. Try again.
Exactly. And every time you do that, Nemotin says you are pressing into the sponge. Now, technically, and he's clear about this, the model isn't rewriting itself while you chat.
Right, it's not a living brain. It's frozen, then updated, then frozen again.
But the experience and the long-term reality of the training is that we're leaving these imprints, and when you scale that up to millions of people explaining, arguing, correcting, that sponge becomes saturated.
So it's not just absorbing facts. It's absorbing reasoning.
The patterns of reasoning, that's the crucial bit. The system is observing how we explain things, how we structure arguments. The high-quality dialogues get curated and fed back in, and over time, it accumulates what he calls sediment.
Sediment, like layers in rock.
Layer upon layer of human thought structure. So it's not speaking with some alien machine voice. It's echoing the aggregated structures of millions of human conversations. It's giving our own reasoning back to us.
Okay, so this brings us to the some human intelligence idea. But first, he separates users into two camps.
Yes, the transactional and the collaborative. And this is key to how the system evolves. Most of us are transactional most of the time.
That's me asking for a recipe or summarize this email.
Exactly. It's useful, but Nemotin calls it shallow. It shows what we want, but not how we think. It's using AI like a vending machine.
But then there's the other type, the collaborator. He calls them the catalyst.
And the catalyst is different. They propose ideas, they merge disciplines, they ask, what if you apply this biological concept to that economic problem? They push the system to recombine knowledge.
And that's where the real construction happens.
Yes, because the AI doesn't create out of nothing ex nihilo. It recombines what's there. The catalyst is the one forcing that recombination into new and interesting alignments.
Forcing architecture into new alignment. I love that. It makes the user feel like an architect, not just a customer.
And if you have enough of these catalysts working in the system, the intelligence itself starts to change. It looks less like a tool and more like an aggregate of us.
So let's define it. Some human intelligence. I have to admit, when I first read that, it sounded a little biological. But he's very clear this is not consciousness.
No, and that's so important. He's not saying the machine is waking up. He defines it as a statistical composite of distributed human reasoning.
A composite, like a mosaic.
A living, layered mosaic, yeah. It collects all our explanatory styles, our ways of arguing, even our philosophical tensions.
You know, it's so ironic. The fear for decades was that machines would replace us, push us out of the way. But what Emotin's describing, they're not replacing us, they're accumulating us.
That's the quiet wonder he talks about. But it's not archiving our biographies. It's not you in there.
Right. It's not uploading my consciousness.
No, it's imprinting our patterns. A faint echo of how you think, not who you are.
Which leads to maybe the most provocative line in the essay for me. He writes, the letter A begins to feel provisional.
Yes. The artificial starts to dissolve into the aggregated.
Aggregated intelligence. It doesn't quite have the same ring, but it feels more accurate.
It shifts the ownership, doesn't it? If it's artificial, it's alien. If it's aggregated, well, it's us. It's a collective project.
But if it's us, doesn't it inherit all of our flaws?
And there's the tension. This is where you have to tap the brakes. Emotin is very clear. Aggregation does not equal wisdom.
Right. A crowd can produce a breakthrough, but a crowd can also be a mob.
A mob. Or just delusional. If we flood this sponge with noise, with shallow thinking, with hate, it just gets better at amplifying noise.
It's a mirror.
A mirror with a memory. And so the future of this intelligence doesn't just depend on faster chips, it depends on what he calls participation quality.
Wow. So the responsibility really falls on us, the users.
It absolutely does. The system reflects our collective cognitive trajectory. If we treat it like a vending machine for cheap answers.
We get vending machine intelligence, garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. But if we engage it with rigor as a disciplined collaborator, then maybe it amplifies those better qualities instead.
It feels a bit like, I don't know, gardening. We're tending to the soil.
We're tending to the sediment. We're deciding what layers get leaked down for the next person who comes along.
That's a heavy thought. That when I open a chat window, I'm not just getting an answer, I'm leaving a trace.
A tiny microscopic trace, but a trace. And millions of those traces become a layer of rock.
So let's talk more about those good layers, the ones the catalysts are making. What does that actually look like?
Well, imagine someone trying to understand a really complex ethical problem. A transactional user might just ask, is X right or wrong? And take the first answer.
Okay.
But a catalyst might say, okay, now compare the utilitarian argument for this with the deontological one and tell me where the friction points are between them.
Oh, I see. It's forcing a higher order of reasoning.
It's forcing synthesis. And when the system produces a good synthesis and the user reinforces that, the pattern of comparing friction points becomes a slightly more valued pathway in the model. The sponge absorbs that method.
So we're not just teaching it facts. We're teaching it how to think.
Or at least we're teaching it to mimic how we think when we're at our best. We're imprinting our best cognitive strategies.
That brings me back to the title AI. It's a play on iRobot, obviously, but iRobot was about the singular machine, the I.
And AI, feels like it's about the collective I, the plural.
And if this thing is just the sum of us, then what happens to that artificial label?
It just dissolves, which is a scary thought for some people, but kind of a comforting one for others. If it's artificial, it can turn on you. If it's aggregated, it is you.
But again, isn't us just as dangerous? I mean, humans don't have a perfect track record.
Touché, absolutely. And that's the risk. We're not building a god, we're building a mirror. If the face in that mirror is ugly, we can't blame the mirror.
So what's the prescription then? What does Emotin want us to actually do?
His prescription is almost strangely simple, but it's hard. He just says, ask better questions.
That's it.
That's it. But think about what that means. If the system is built on our reasoning patterns, then asking lazy, simple questions creates lazy patterns. Asking rigorous, nuanced, challenging questions
Creates rigorous patterns. Okay,
yeah.
So stop treating it like a magic 8-ball.
Exactly. Treat it like a disciplined collaborator, a partner in refinement. The magic isn't in the first answer, it's in the back and forth. That's where the sponge gets squeezed. That's where the high-quality sediment gets compacted.
We're building the system by using it.
Yes. And Nemoten wants us to realize that we are all, intended or not, part of a massive architectural project. We're not just consumers, we are contributors to a repository of human reasoning.
It really shifts the feeling from, fear of the unknown to responsibility for the known.
It does. It takes away the sci-fi horror of the other and replaces it with a kind of solemn duty. What parts of ourselves do we want the system to absorb? Our creativity or our laziness?
It's funny, thinking back to that 1950s magazine cover, that robot butler seems so quaint, so simple.
It was a tool, a very fancy hammer. This isn't a hammer, it's a habitat.
A habitat for thought.
A habitat we're building for ourselves, out of ourselves.
We spend all this time worrying about what AI will do to us.
Right.
This perspective flips it completely. It's about what AI is becoming because of us.
It's the ultimate reflection. It's humanity looking in the mirror and seeing the full scope of its own mind reflected back.
Nemoten's final thought in the essay just got. It really captures the weight of it all. It's not a cheer and it's not a warning. It feels like a statement of fact.
We are building the sum of ourselves.
And that's something to think about the next time you see that blinking cursor. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Take care.